Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Every religion has prayer, and every religion has ritual times for prayer. Some pray once a week, some pray twice a day, some pray 3 times a day, some pray 5 times a day. In Sufism, in addition to prayer, we have what's called zikr, remembrance, which is a repetition of the names of God as a remembrance of God. Now, why is it that all of these religions have prayers? And what's the purpose of prayer? Why do people pray? People pray for different reasons. Sometimes these reasons are selfish. They pray because they want things. So they ask for things. Or they pray for health. Or they pray for their friends, or they pray for their parents, or they pray for their children. All of these things basically are asking for some kind of outcome in the world. When you pray for the health of a friend, you're praying for Allah's intervention in the world so that that friend can be helped. But what is prayer really about? And what is true prayer? And how is true prayer done? Prayer is an attempt to come closer to God, to come closer to Allah, to set up a line of communication between yourself and Allah. But man is not capable of knowing God. Man is not capable of seeing God. No man has ever seen God. So how do you get to come closer to God? How do you get to know God? How do you get to know Allah? Allah is known by way of His mercy. Allah is known by way of His resonance. Allah is known by way of His actions. Allah is known through Himself. We can only know Allah through Allah. So, the intention to know Allah from our mind is an illusory intention that can't be fulfilled. The intention to know Allah through our desire is an illusory intention that can't be fulfilled because Allah can't be known that way. Allah can't be known through human endeavor. He can only be known through godly endeavor. So what's that mean? It means that we, to know Allah, must become godly. We must become like Allah to know Allah. And then through that, we can know Him. There's no other way to know Him. If you recite the entire Quran, or if you incite the entire Torah, or the entire Injil, the New Testament, you will not know Allah unless your heart has opened to Allah and you've allowed Allah in your heart. So, we have to understand that in order to become involved with the truth, in order to know the truth, we must become the truth. We cannot know what we have not become. It's an important little line. We cannot know what we have not become. We cannot know Rahman until we become Rahman. We cannot know mercy until we are merciful. So, unless we have the qualities that are Allah, and we have incorporated them into our being so that they in fact are our being, then we can't truly pray. And we can't truly surrender. Allah is known through real surrender, not through the recitation of words. Allah is known through real mercy, not through the recitation of the word mercy. Ya Rahman, Ya Rahman, Ya Rahman, Ya Rahman. If there's no mercy inside of you, you can say that from now until doomsday. Nothing's going to happen. It'll only happen if we have in fact surrendered everything in us that is not merciful. So, what does it mean to surrender to Allah? Well, one of the things that it means is that we surrender all of the things in our being that are not Allah. We have to surrender our desire. We have to surrender our lusts. We have to surrender our anger. We have to surrender all of the qualities that are not found in Allah. And as we surrender those things, other things are automatically surrendered. We surrender our mortality and become immortal. Imagine, if you can surrender all of the qualities that are not Allah, one of the qualities that is not Allah is mortality. Allah doesn't end. So if you can surrender everything in you that is not Allah, everything in you that ends, you will surrender your own mortality and you will be granted immortality. Immortality comes from becoming God-like. Mortality comes because you aren't God-like. And you can't join into that oneness that is immortal in existence. This takes a certain kind of intention, but it also takes a certain kind of discipline. We are told not to talk about other people. We're told not to backbite. We're told not to throw discredit on other people. Yet, this happens all the time and constantly. Why? Because we believe that Allah's laws and the laws of conduct all have buts in them. And that but is, we can't discredit this person but for certain circumstances where it's absolutely necessary. And if you don't believe you do that, watch how you talk about politicians. Are they somehow exempt from this edict not to talk about other people? This is a hard one because everybody thinks politics is so important to them. And the ones who are ruling the country are so important to them that they have to talk about them. How about instead of talking about them, you pray for them? Or you just pray? People are constantly under the impression that we are protected by our politicians, or by our diplomats, or by our armies, or by our generals. I was once with Bawa, and we were at the immigration office, and he was getting a green card. And he had called me the night before and said, Tomby, little brother, I'm going to get my green card tomorrow. You have to come with me. I was living at the shore then. And so the first thing I did was I turned to my wife and I said, we have to clean the car. And we cleaned the car, and then we drove to Philadelphia. And I took Bawa along with Dr. Marker and Dr. Ajwad, two of the translators, and two of his earliest disciples. I took them to 6th and Market, 5th and Market, the Federal Building on Market Street. And we went into the immigration office. And he was basically there for an interview. And I had brought a stack of books to show evidence behind the request that we had made that he was a religious leader and people relied on him as their religious mentor, and for that reason he should be given a permanent visa. And at that time that was a kind of permanent visa you could get. So I put the books down, and the guy really wasn't interested in it, who was doing the interview. And really all he wanted to do was ask his questions. So he started. And all the questions were very innocuous. And all of them had yes and no answers. So there were about 20 questions. And he'd ask Bawa the question, and Bawa would give a one-word answer. And Dr. Ajwad was doing the translating, and he would say yes or no. And the last question was, are you now, or have you ever been, a member of the Communist Party? And Bawa gave a 20-minute answer. And Dr. Ajwad didn't say anything through this entire answer. And when Bawa was finished, Dr. Ajwad said no. And the guy said, good. And everything was done, and he said, you'll get your green card soon. And we walked out. And since I was driving, and I had Dr. Ajwad and Bawa with me, I could ask questions. And my question was, what did he say? And Dr. Ajwad said, he gave a very long explanation about how communism is against God. And how could he support something that's against God? And then he went on to explain that one of the reasons he came to America was to keep communism out of America. And he's been working on that ever since he's come here. And he's also been working on keeping America free from outside corruption. And I thought, well, that's a pretty good answer, but I'm not quite sure if, this actually Ajwad said that he wasn't quite sure that the man from the Immigration Service could listen to something like that and make sense out of it. So he thought it was best just to say no. Now, here's the question for you. Can you believe that a little brown man weighing 90 pounds, who was a little taller than 5 feet, or maybe barely 5 feet, sitting on a bed on Overbrook Avenue in Philadelphia, can keep communism out of America? Do you believe that? Or do you believe that it's our army that protects us? It's the soldiers that protects us. What do you believe? What do you personally believe? And what are you doing about it? If you believe that a godly person can protect a country, what are you doing to protect America? Do you realize that if you can surrender all of the things that aren't godly within you, you can become one of the people who protect the world? It reminds me of the line, "Ask not for whom the bell tolls. The bell tolls for thee." Are we constantly going to leave the protection of existence up to others, or are we going to be the ones for whom the world's protected because we have a relationship with Allah, and Allah protects those who have a relationship with Him? And because of that, all the ones around them become protected too. So if there are people in a city who have a relationship with Allah, a true relationship with Allah, the city becomes protected. If there are enough people in a country that have a true relationship with Allah, the country becomes protected. Bawa said to me that if 11 people, 11 of his children, did tawaf around the Kaaba in his name for world peace, that it would delay the destruction. So in 1990-something, we did that. We walked around the Kaaba with 11 people and a little green flag we had from Bawa, asking that the destruction be held off. Now, I don't know what the effect of it was, but I know what the intention was. And the intention was to create a relationship with God that would instill favor on the world. Now, what each of us needs to be able to do is create a relationship with Allah. First, it's to instill favor with us, because we want to know God, and God wants to know us. So if we are to become one of His friends, we have to know Him. If we are to become a wali, a friend of Allah, we have to know Him. And how do we know Him? We know Him through Himself. So the only way to know Him is to become like Him, to become of Him, to surrender to Him by giving up everything that isn't Him. First, we have to get over all of the inferiority feelings we have about ourselves that tells us we can't do something like this. Because we can. Not only can we are meant to. If not us, then who? A katub, a center point, an axis of existence was sent to us to teach us this. Do we really believe that He was sent if we couldn't do it? He was sent to make the place for this to happen. We have to allow ourselves to be the ones that it happens through. And how do we allow this to happen? By creating a wall between ourselves and illusion. By creating distance between ourselves and illusion. By stopping to believe in illusion and believing only in God. By knowing that the world isn't real and that all that is real is haq. That reality and the world are not the same thing. That the dunya, the dung heap that is the world, is not where the treasure of our life lies. That the treasure of our life lies in Allah, and it is our responsibility to ourselves and to all of humanity to find this treasure. Each one of us can do it, and we can do it hidden. We don't have to run around the street with a flag proclaiming it. We can do it hidden. We can do it in a corner. We can do it in a bedroom on Overbrook Avenue. We can do it in the bedroom of our own house. We can do it in the living room of our own house. We can do it in a chair at our dining room table. We can leave the illusion and enter into reality. And we enter into reality by letting go of the desire for the world. By letting go of our needs in the world. By letting go of everything that holds us in the world and attaches us to the world. Everything that we think that we need, we don't need. The only thing we need is God. And if we have that, we have everything. But we don't believe it. We think we need other things, and we can each write a list and enumerate all the things that we think we need. We need respect from others. No, you don't. We need love of all the people around us. No, you don't. We need money to support ourselves. No, you don't. You need Allah. And when times of difficulty comes, Allah will supply what you need. When the Prophet asked for charity and Abu Bakr came forward and said, I give everything I have, the Prophet asked him, who will support you? And he responded, my Lord and my Prophet will take care of me. Can we believe that we can be taken care of? When I first started practicing law, people asked me, what's it like? I said, it's a proof of God. They said, what do you mean? I said, I sit behind my desk, people walk in, tell me their problems and give me money. And I make a living. And before that, I had no idea you could do something like that. Well, you can. And that's not the only way that you make money. There's thousands of ways you can make money. It's a system that's been provided by Allah for you to be able to make a living. All you have to do is step into it. Doctors step into it. All kinds of people step into an existing system. You can come from other countries and all of a sudden there's jobs for you here so you can make a living. Allah provides. Allah will continue to provide. But Allah created this world because He wanted it to be known. So, what keeps this world in existence? The ones who know Him. That's what He wants. He wants you to know Him. And how do you come to know Him? By giving up everything in you that's attached to something other than Him. And then when you say, Ya Rahman, Ya Rahman, Ya Rahman, Ya Rahman, it means something. But as long as we're attached, it doesn't mean anything. Bawa said, during Ramadan, God doesn't need you to fast from food if you can't fast from anger. And in a lot of parts of the world, Ramadan is something like this. People wake up at 6:30 in the evening, eat, and go to bed as soon as the day breaks. And then they stay asleep all day until the evening comes again. They just turn the world, their world, around. Their world, not Allah's world. They still stay within the confines of their own world. They still live exactly the same way, except now they do at night what they used to do in the daytime. And they sleep in the daytime instead of fasting. I recently decided to lose some weight. So I started by fasting. I fasted for 2 days, about 48 hours. And it wasn't a big deal. I got a little tired, so I took more naps. But I'm old, I'm entitled to a few naps. But it wasn't hard. And it was something I thought might be incredibly difficult, but it isn't. Set your mind to things, and they won't be hard. Don't think about if they're hard or not. Just think about the fact that Allah is great and allows you to do these things. So do things on His behalf, because He will stand behind you to push you and help you. But believe. Faith is a very powerful thing. You may have heard the expression, faith can move mountains. Well, it's easier to move a mountain than to move some hearts. But faith will move hearts. Faith will change hearts. If you believe that Allah is merciful and Allah wants to know you and that you truly want to know Him, there will be dramatic changes in your existence. Don't be afraid to think you're holy. Don't be afraid to think you're holy. Don't be afraid to think that the examples of the prophets and the holy ones were written for you. Don't be afraid to think that all the stories of the great saints weren't given as examples for you. And don't think that you can't march among them. Believe that you'll be in that number when the saints come marching in. Believe it, because it's meant to be that way. We were meant to be among the holy ones. All of us were meant to be among the holy ones. But some have lost their way. And some have lost the belief that they can be among the holy ones. And then there are those who come to remind you. And Bawa came to remind all of us that we can be among the holy ones. And if you didn't believe that, he would say, you're sitting with me, aren't you? Think of it. Think of it. You sat with a holy one, or you sat with holy ones who sat with him. It's here. The truth is here. Holiness is here. Redemption is here. Immortality is here. Our connection to reality is here. And it's here all the time. Just lift the veils of the world that keep you from seeing it. Happiness is here, always. Perfection is here, always. Our problem is we refuse to be able to see perfection. Stop refusing. Stop knocking on open doors. walk through. Faith will take you there. Belief will take you there. And if all of these things are lacking, read the stories of the prophets. Jesus was betrayed by one of his 12. Muhammad, own tribe, tried to kill him. Moses, when he came down from the mountain, people were worshiping a calf, and one of them came up to him and said, "Moses," Edward G. Robinson in the movie, by the way, "Moses, who do you think you are? We're all the same. I can do the talking as well as you can." And a lightning bolt came and the ground opened up and swallowed him, which put an end to that theory. God has sent his prophets to help us and to put us straight. And if we allow ourselves to take the advice of the prophets, to take the advice of the friends of Allah, to take the advice of the Ketubs, great changes will come about, not only in ourselves, but all of those near to us. And I have to tell you, great changes have already come about in all of you. You may not notice it because you're all too close to yourselves to notice. But think of yourselves 10 or 15 years ago, and think of yourselves now. Think of your abilities 10 or 15 years ago in being conversant with the language of Allah, and think of yourselves now. Think how much progress has been made in your ability to understand reality. Think how your hearts have become softer, how you have become closer to God, and because of that, closer to other people. I know in looking at myself, a lot has happened. And believe me, a lot is happening for each of you, and it may be happening too. As it happens, it seems so normal, but it's not normal in the world. What's happening to you is extraordinary. Allow it to continue to happen. Don't put the brakes on it. Don't stop it. Let it flow, and it will continue to happen, and you'll continue to come closer and closer to Allah. Patience is the umbrella of God's throne. Each of us has to be patient as we go through our metamorphosis. Each of us has to be patient as we grow and become more. Each of us has to allow a nurturing attitude towards ourselves. And each of us has to be able to steer ourselves in the right direction. And we need friends to help us stay in the right direction. But we need true friends. We can't have false friends. Somebody gave a speech recently, and in a very worldly setting, where he said, "I thank God for all of my friends who've stayed with me through this path, and I thank God for exposing to me all of my false friends who made believe they were my friends, but were really there to take advantage of me or to do me in." You have to be very careful who you choose as your friends. And what you need is people on the path. And if they talk to you about things other than the path, if they want to talk to you about other people, if they want to gossip with you, they're not friends. They're people from the world who just happen to be passing through your life. But they're not friends. Surah Al-Asr says, except for when we are with people who study the truth and we discuss the truth. We are hopeless. So there we are. What do we need to do? We need to learn more about our relationship with God. How do we do it? By keeping company with people who need to learn more about their relationship with God. Allah will provide if we take the appropriate steps towards Him. If we set the intention to be His, He will take us. We have to set that intention. We have to set that intention over and over and